So, if you remember, at the end of Slammiversary, Jeff Jarrett regained the NWA World title in controversial fashion.
Boy, do I remember it.
There was a whole deal where Earl Hebner knocked over a ladder and Larry Zbyszko cost Christian and Sting the match, and then Jarrett won the match. But then Jim Cornette came out and took the belt off Jarrett, and that was your Slammiversary cliffhanger.
And we were left wondering, what the heck's gonna happen next, you know?
So we open the June 22nd Impact with Jim Cornette. He kicks off the show after Slammiversary's ending. He's going to bring order and accountability back to TNA after Larry Z has run amok. Him and TNA management have been hunkered down, and he's sick of Jeremy Borash hovering around outside his office door being like, hey, Jim, give me an idea what's going on.
Gotta give me the scoop. He's a 1920s reporter now.
He does kind of sound like that.
Yeah, it's like if you, like, injected, like, a healthy dose of millennial in there.
They should put him in a little hat.
This is the weird combo.
They should give him a hat.
Should be. He's a very 2006 man.
He is. Fair play to him.
Like, on the other side of the spectrum of Alex Shelley being the most 2006 man, like, if there was a tier list of who was the most 2006 on the roster, like, your S tier rankings would be Alex Shelley and Jeremy Borash.
And they're very kind of different kinds of 2006.
Yeah, but still 2006 at its core. That's the important thing.
Yeah, like, Shelley is the kind of 2006 that people now aspire to go back to.
Yeah, like, Shelley is the kind of 2006 that would have been hosting a G4 show. I'm not sure G4 was around in 2006, but, you know, that's my reference.
And JB is the kind of 2006 that would be hosting an MTV show.
Yeah, and he'd be, like, leering at the women.
Yes, he sure would. He'd be on, like, TRL or some shit.
G4 started in 2002.
Was it already gone by 06?
No, it went until 2014.
Did it last that long?
Yeah, 22 years.
Really?
And then the relaunch only lasted 2.
Oh, that was always doomed to fail, though.
I was like right on the money with like the era for it, like in my head though. Wait, I got a fun G4 note for you.
Please tell me.
It was reported that the UFC and WWE were in separate talks to buy G4 in 2011. The UFC eventually partnered with Fox while WWE launched its own network on February 24, 2014.
So G4 being the underpinning to the network was like an idea they had?
Yeah.
I guess like one of the original ideas for the WWE network that they were thinking of before they went with streaming was that it would just be like a linear channel that would be like 24/7.
Yeah, which is what we had in Australia. I don't know if that was other places. I assume it was, but we had like a WWE channel basically.
Yeah, I know they had like WWE Classics on demand and stuff like that. That was like a channel on TV at some point.
Yeah, we had that. And now that we have that again, actually.
That's what your WWE network is now, yeah?
No, we have WWE network proper. Like, well, not proper, but you know what I mean? Like, it is
built into another
all
app.
on demand. Yeah, all on demand on the Binge app. But it also has part of that deal, because Binge is like all the sort of Fox channels on paid TV here. Part of that was there is a WWE channel on paid TV now, and a live feed in the app that play the pay-per-views, as well as like, you know, just your weekly TVs and your C shows, and then some classic content.
That's fun.
I never use it. I should just like use it as a thing to put on in the background at times. But I guess I'm not bereft of background content.
Yeah, and the problem is they probably like lean too much heavily on like modern stuff. So
I'm gonna go to the what it is right now, just for like shits and giggles. Might take a while with my amazing internet.
Nah, I'll just cut it out.
Cool. WWE. It is the first channel on the app. Fun fact.
Oh,
I can't play it on mobile data.
Ah, well.
Considering that is the only data that I have available to me right now.
We will never know.
How much more how much do I have left? Check it out.
Enough to get through this podcast.
I have 180 gigs a month.
Oh, you're fine.
I did get my 50% warning a while ago.
Okay.
And you may be like, oh, that's because your internet doesn't work and no, that's just how much I used.
Also toward the end of the month, so.
It is. I have used 120.
Yeah, you have 60. You're fine.
And 11 days to my renewal, but hopefully my internet will be back up.
You can hide from your phone.
That's an update to all the listeners on my current internet situation.
So Jim Cornette addresses LAX, who he was meant to have an appointment with, but they no-showed it. He's going to fire somebody next week, in which a "Fire Jarrett" chant breaks out.
Cornette was like,
It's a good idea. It is actually interesting, like the crowd were kind of booing him here.
I mean, he's a heel. Like, he's not a nice person. Whenever he's in the ring, he's a dick to everybody. Like, in like a way that's like, if I was there, I'd be like, yeah, fuck you too, man.
I think they worked out by like the next week's big promo that he's meant to be a babyface, but they were like, Are you an asshole? Are we meant to be not liking you?
Yeah, he's like racist to LAX. That's once again proving LAX's entire gimmick correct. And he did the like Christian thing.
What Christian thing?
Where the patriarchy, where he hit Jarrett with she's already dead, which got boos.
Yeah.
So it's like, you are racist. You're a racist to LAX, and then you told someone that their grandma's dead. Of course you were getting booed.
And she's ashamed of you, yeah. So Corny says he says the things that happen with Jarrett make him embarrassed to be associated with professional wrestling. Next week he'll make an announcement about who the world champion is, as well as what's going to happen at Victory Road. He knew and loved Jeff Jarrett's grandmother, and she'd be as ashamed of Jeff as he is if she wasn't already dead, as he said. He'll see Jarrett next week, and Jarrett appears and shouts at him.
These segments are kind of like boring or whatever, but I think it's a good American TV angle start to the show thing. Like, it's better than just like, all right, I don't want to say diamonds in the rough because they're in the next match, but
but we won't be talking about that next match for like 20 minutes, so you're fine.
Yeah, okay, sure. Like, Diamonds in the Rough opened the show in a tag that no one gives a fuck or shit about. Neither a fuck nor a shit. So it's like, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's like an angle. It runs through this show as well. We'll talk about that. There's backstage segments. It sets up the main angle for next week. It sets up Jeff Jarrett's favorite story, which is there's a thing he wants to know about, so he can shout at people about whether or not they can tell him about the thing he wants to know about.
And guess what?
What?
He'll find out his answer at the pay-per-view.
It is. You mentioned that in the last episode, that like Jeff Jarrett does this story all the goddamn time, that there is just a thing he needs to know, and all he does for the entire month is shout at somebody about that thing, and like they're doing it again. God damn it.
I have a feeling it won't be the last time we get this story.
So a bunch of people are waiting for meetings with Jim Cornette. Eric Young is paranoid that because Jim Cornette says somebody's going to lose his job, it's going to be him.
Thus we get the beginning of Don't Fire Eric.
Jarrett charges in and demands that he's like, Eric, I don't give a shit about what you're talking about, and demands to talk to Jim Cornette.
That's a good sign for Eric, I'd say. Because, like, Jarrett's taking the heat.
Yeah, you want the guy to come in and shout at the dude, so he's like, never mind, I was going to fire Eric, but I'm going to fire you instead, because you're annoying.
Exactly. I like how Paul Eric, very low self-esteem guy, that he's like, I've done nothing wrong, and yet I still think I'm going to be one that goes.
He's paranoid. He's gotten in his head. We are back from break with the same crew outside the door. Lethal and Sabin were there for the last segment as well. Lethal wants to know why EY is so paranoid, and EY is like, do you know what it's like to be me?
God, he's so good. I didn't realize he would find so much of this already. I thought like this was going to be a thing like we got in 2 years, but like he's already there.
Yeah. Jarrett comes out of the office. Ewan wants to know about if he's being fired. Jarrett's like, shut the hell up. I have to wait 7 days to find out about my title.
I like that Jarrett is very mean to him because he's like, I like tolerated you during Planet Jarrett. And now I don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah, it's just like, because like the whole thing with the Sting thing was like that the only person that believed Eric was Jarrett. He couldn't let it go, but now he's like, shut the fuck up.
And like, Eric is kind of taken aback. He's like, we were cool.
We used to be buddies, and now you want to fire me too, Jeff, don't you? You hate me too.
And it's very good, he probably would. But like, I wonder if this has to be like a little meta thing, right? With like them like thinking about canning him as many months ago.
Yeah, because that was back at the start of 2005 when Dusty wanted to let him go, and then he had that really good pay-per-view match.
And like all the boys like going around so that Eric doesn't get fired. Like, it seems like it's a thing they turned into a thing.
So that, like, the paranoia backstage might have been like a thing that permeated enough for people to go, that's actually a fun gimmick.
Yeah. Or like even like, something he pitched, or like just, something. Like, it feels like that came from a real place.
Yeah. So later in the show, JB is still outside Cornette's office. Christian walks up. JB wants to know what Christian wants. Christian says if Cornette is here to do the right thing, he'll give him his title back. Then Christian reemerges later in the show. Christian will also have to wait a week. Sting walks up. Christian doesn't think this Cornette guy is going to work out. He's like, this guy, let's go back to Larry Z.
My favorite thing about it was like Christian walked in there with such confidence. He's like, I don't have to wait. I don't need a meeting. I'm the guy around here. Walked in, then walked out. I was like, I have to wait till next week like everyone else.
You gotta get that Cornette guy out of here.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I'm a Larry Z defender as well, Christian.
Sting has something to say to Corny. Christian is like, Sting, buddy, we're pals. What are you gonna say to him? What are you gonna say? And Sting says Christian will be the first to find out, but not right now, apparently.
Which is incorrect, because Jim Cornette will be the first to find out.
That's true. And JB will be the second to find out. Christian is like third.
Maybe Christian's right about this Sting guy not being trustworthy.
Main event. X Division titles on the line. Senshi and Sanjay Dutt challenge Samoa Joe.
You ever seen a match more specifically designed to not have someone lose?
Yeah, very much is. Especially because like it does make a degree of sense because Senshi and Dutt were the last two in the X Division rankings match, so they didn't pluck them out of nowhere. But also Senshi won that match. Why is Sanjay getting a shot?
Because Joe's not gonna get pinned or submitted.
That's it. So EY is in the crowd with the "Don't Fire Eric" sign, and that is the beginning. The crowd chants along. That's the beginning of "Don't Fire Eric."
It's so good.
Steiner brains Joe at ringside with a chair to take him out. This opens it up for Senshi to hit Dutt with the Warriors Way and win the X Division title, as NWA-TNA very much reinforces Samoa Joe was not pinned.
We did everything here to make sure Joe was protected.
Yeah, nice to see the X Division get a TV main, but also it was fine.
Yeah, Senshi, it's crazy because like Key is as good as these other guys. But it's like, I mean, he's still kind of in that building stage, but like Joe was having killer build up matches, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like even I feel like Key's first run was even stronger, you know? Yeah,
like he has yet to have like a standout performance here. I think the squash he did last month was fun just because it was like a Warriors Way and that's a cool move. But like the 6-man at the pay-per-view, the last one wasn't very good. This was fine, and the Frankie match was fine that we're going to talk about in a minute. Spoilers, Frankie's back. But yeah, not a great like first couple of months for Senshi. Not like, oh my god, thank God Loki's here again.
Do you think Key is slightly overrated in ring?
I think he's not a sure thing.
Like a lot of other guys were.
Yeah, like if you put Bryan Danielson in there or Samoa Joe in there, he is a sure thing. And there's oftentimes you get Senshi or Loki, there's oftentimes you get Loki and you don't know what Loki you're going to get. But if you get Loki, it's the fucking best thing in the world.
Also, like maybe sneakily a tag guy.
Might be, because like his thing is like big explosive offense, so that kind of works better in a tag setting where he doesn't have to do like the full psychology of the match. He can work that into like the psychology of tag psychology, which I think works a little better. But
because like even in like the New Japan, in the Raintakers stuff I've been watching, Raintakers go buy Patreon, give me money. Even in then, like I feel like he wasn't delivering to the level of a Devitt or an Ibushi. Again, maybe it may be unfair. They are like a decade younger than him or whatever.
Yeah. And he is an aura guy. So if he's not booked in a way that makes him like project that aura, it takes something away from him.
He's an interesting case.
That on so many levels, which is what makes him a great wrestler, I think.
Or at least like an interesting note, like in 20 years when a lot of people have forgotten about him, and it's like, let's reanalyze this Key career, you know?
Because that is the thing. He will be forgotten. And it's kind of sad to say, but like he will be fundamentally forgotten.
I mean, like we've been having this conversation lately about Hansen.
Yeah, like if fucking Stan Hansen isn't remembered by like the average young wrestling fan because there's nowhere that will like evangelize. That's what you need. You need like an institution like WWE or now AEW or even like a New Japan to like evangelize the history of you, and no one's going to do that for Loki.
Yeah. And like I guess your best bet there is like an AEW, which does acknowledge outside promotions and history,
and obviously owns the Ring of Honor library.
Owns the ROH library, but it's like, again, they can't do it for fucking everyone.
And they're going to do it for the people like Samoa Joe or Bryan Danielson that they employ.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like Eddie Guerrero is an all-time great, but the reason like so many people say Eddie Guerrero is their favorite wrestler is because we have now had nearly 20 years since he died of like WWE constantly evangelize Eddie Guerrero. You know, they're constantly talking about how good Eddie was. They show highlights of how like DVDs. It's like everyone talks about Eddie. So that's the reason that like permeates into fan culture, that because Eddie has been, propped up is the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, he has been like he's been used as like a token idea of like an all-time great.
Yeah, and that's been reinforced and pushed over and over again to the extent that every WWE Performance Center wrestler now says their favorite wrestler is Eddie Guerrero, and that's where that comes from.
I wonder if part of that like idea will die with the fact that we don't have DVD releases anymore.
That's because it's really weird to me that like we have more wrestling easily accessible than ever before, and somehow less of it is getting through. You can find like 50 of the best Stan Hansen matches right now on YouTube or Dailymotion for free. You can type Stan Hansen match into YouTube and you will get 10 great Stan Hansen matches, but nobody's doing that.
I have one on my second monitor right now.
It's my big frustration with, I think, modern wrestling criticism and modern wrestling coverage is we spend so much time, I know, but we spend so much time giving out about like whatever the talking point of the week is, that we spend far less time than we used to diving into historical stuff and trying to actually dig this stuff up.
People don't analyze anything anymore. And people don't care about history, and like people who like have become voices on
wrestling.
This topic. Yeah, I was trying to avoid it. People who have become voices in wrestling journalism and wrestling historians are like they're not actual like historians. Like they know nothing. Like out of all like the biggest voices in pro wrestling right now, and I don't mean to be like gatekeepy guy or
no,
whatever, but it's like
gatekeep is good.
But like but like they don't know a Stan Hansen match, you know? It's like, and that's insane because like that's what you're. It's almost like a responsibility to be like at least somewhat knowledgeable of the history of pro wrestling, and it's even more egregious when you get people talking about specific companies and they don't know the history of the company. Like you'll get modern reviewers of promotions of companies that have been around for 20 years and they haven't even seen shit. So like they're just talking about it from the perspective of like what they've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, and that's insane. I mean, everyone has to start somewhere, but it's when you're already put on like a pedestal with a following, like it's like almost the duty or a responsibility to at least be somewhat knowledgeable, because otherwise it's like you're screaming into nothing about nothing with no backup or context. We could have just jumped into a TNA review podcast, you know, like that would have been easy. But it's like this is what more people, I don't mean to be like more people should be like us, but like retrospectives should be a bigger thing.
There should be multiple for every company, frankly.
There's not even like WWE ones.
Well, there is, but we just do the Attitude Era over and over and over.
Yeah, that's the thing. They do WCW versus WWE.
That's the only thing we do retrospectives on. Like I know there's some that like dive into like Ruthless Aggression era, and I understand why no one wants to dive into like 2010 WWE. We did it for the Patreon show. It was unbearable to just do like 5 months of it. But like that's what we need more of. We need more of people diving. Like the Bryan Danielson Shield stuff is 10 years old now. Like that's I was thinking like when is the right time you can start doing AEW history stuff, and I was like we're coming up on 5 years since they launched Dynamite, so like when do we start talking about that stuff in like a historical context? I don't know, but like as I said, all we ever do is Monday Night War. It's all we ever do.
And like I understand that everyone's gonna have blind spots. This is a gigantic industry that has been around for a long ass time, but it's like you gotta at least own it if you don't know it.
Yeah, that's my big thing. My big thing is the confidence with which they make broad declarations that is not backed up by knowledge.
Oh, this is the best angle ever. This is the hottest storyline ever. This is the biggest draw ever. And you're like, shut up. It's not even the biggest draw or the best storyline, like whatever, of the company you're talking about.
And it's like my big frustration when I wrote about that wrestling Twitter thing I wrote like 4 months ago was that the people who do know this stuff, the people who do know better, keep getting dragged into the mud with these other people. We keep letting those people define how we talk about this stuff. Like those brainless people who have only seen 2 years of wrestling, who is like, this match is the best that has ever existed. And then next week they're like, this match is the best that has ever. And fair, like Dave Meltzer does that too, I guess. Dave Meltzer has this new match of the year of the week every week. But
match of the life.
Yeah, every match is the new best match of all time to Dave, which I guess is a fun way to exist when you're in your 60s. Usually people go the other way, but anyway.
Yeah, but like, and also I don't think that like if you are someone new that like it doesn't disqualify you from talking about wrestling either. Like, that's really fun to watch someone who hasn't seen anything see things for the first time.
And they can bring a new perspective on it. Like, they can have a new take, seeing old stuff with modern eyes, being like, this is different in a good way or bad way from the stuff we watch right now.
But again, acknowledge
Acknowledge
that, like, well, that's what they'll be talking about. But, like, acknowledge that there is the gaps there. That, like, and, like, yeah, go out and explore it. It's fun. Like, that's what I did from, like, 15 to now. You know, it's like, I if there was things I didn't know about, like, that was the fun thing. It was, like, finding as much things from a time period that you can. And digging in and finding new favorites, finding people that, like, you never would have seen otherwise. You're like, wow, this is, like, someone that I love now and think is a really, like, great talent. And now you unlock things like that, you know?
Especially for people for whom their entire career is done. Like, you can see the entire span of Terry Funk or Dusty Rhodes or Ric Flair or Misawa or Curryman or anybody, you know? If you want silly, if you want fun, if you want main event, if you want undercard, if you want wrestling, if you want storytelling, it is all there if you're curious.
But, like, I mean, I get that part of it probably is that, like, when there's 20 hours of mainstream American television pro wrestling to watch a week, it probably does make it difficult. But, like, I don't know, make some time. Doesn't have to be a lot, just make some time. Find some things that, like, you wouldn't see otherwise.
And you do need help. That's what, like, that, again, to go back to my frustration with a lot of people who should know better aren't helping people. Like, you should have, here's how you approach Stan Hansen's career. You know, here's how you should, like, dive in. Here's where you can start from. Here are our 10 matches to start with and expand from. And we should be talking about that all the time for wrestlers. We only ever do it when they die. We wait for somebody to die, and then we're like, oh, well, it wasn't, like, Terry Funk really great. Here's how you should watch Terry Funk. No, we should be doing that all the time for every wrestler. Like, not just us going through TNA being like, well, we have our spreadsheet now, like, that you can go and you can see, you can 2 points of view about what the best matches from 2002 to 2006 are. We have that little curation thing there for patrons if you want it. Like, that should be there for everybody, for AJ, for Misawa, for Stan Hansen, for Hulk Hogan. Like, we should be curating that and celebrating it and talking about it, as opposed to what's the dopey wrestling Twitter talking point of the week. Do we need to send tweets about the WWE thing about, oh, you know, AEW are overpaying for talent? Do we need to even talk about that? No, we don't. It's a WWE PR bullshit thing. Nobody needs to say a word about it. It doesn't inform anybody. It doesn't make conversation better. It's reactionary bullshit. Let's celebrate pro wrestling.
Just, I don't know. It's fun to explore. And even if you think it's not going to be fun and there's not something there for you, there's always going to be something there for you.
So Loki is new X Division champion.
Yeah.
Sting emerges from Cornette's office after going in earlier. Cornette is going to work out just fine, says Sting. So he got what he wants. He got everything he wanted.
He's already fighting against exactly what Christian said.
Yeah, and he didn't tell Christian. He is appearing on the show to undermine Christian. June 29th Impact. Christian opens the show and he talks about how there'll be a company meeting with Jim Cornette later tonight, but he wants none of those politics. He just wants to talk to Sting. Christian knows that Cornette is going to give him back his title tonight. He says if Sting wants a title shot, he just has to ask, but have the balls to say it to his face.
I like this segment. We're getting a little more like heelish stuff from Christian, and it works way better.
Yeah, because Sting calls Christian Jeff Jarrett, and Christian's like, "Am I wearing white pants and look like an ass?" I think it is a tacit admission, and it is like the truth of Christian's career that the man has always been a better heel than he's been a babyface. And I wouldn't call him a flop as a babyface here in his first what are we at, like 7 or 8 months, but he is much better as a heel. So,
but it's like also you really don't want your biggest star in the company to be a heel if you can avoid it.
Yeah, and like the idea is he's coming in as this guy that WWE didn't treat properly, so you want to be like he's the hero here, as opposed to being like WWE didn't treat him properly and he's really bitter about it, which he is. But
like there's a reason that like Moxley was a babyface for the first 3 years of AEW.
Or even like Hogan to WCW, like, same thing.
Yeah, like it's just that's what it should be. Like that's how you should bring someone in.
Though maybe turning them within the first year is kind of a mission to failure, but...
Yeah. But, you know, I guess we'll see. But also, again, like, American pro wrestling TV is very, like, shotgun blast, like, reactionary, go bang, bang, boom. Not so much like You're not slow burning it as much.
I do think it does become a bit of a trend. Like, Christian comes in as a babyface, turns heel within the first year. Angle comes in as a babyface, turns heel within the first year. Booker comes in as a babyface, turns heel within the first year. Mick Foley comes in as a babyface, turns heel within the first year. Hulk Hogan comes in as a babyface, turns heel within the first year. Jeff Hardy comes in as a babyface, turns heel within the first year. So it's like, all of them, you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, because I think they immediately treat them like they're the furniture, that they've been there the whole time.
And there is the universal truth: wrestling bookers are bad at booking baby faces.
It's harder than booking a heel.
It is, and they're bad at it, so they just turn people heel because that's easier. Sting says, right now you do look like Jeff Jarrett. Sting has been where Christian is, but Christian's cracking under the pressure and second guessing people. He talked to Cornette last week, not about getting a title shot or anything like that. He just wanted a tag team match. Now, why he couldn't tell Christian last week that he was just asking for a tag team match, who knows?
Perhaps he is just testing him.
And Christian is failing comprehensively. But also, he has reason to be paranoid.
It's hard to trust Sting, man. That guy's a shifty individual.
Yeah, when Sting is like, oh, you'll find out with the rest. He's just asking, he asked for Christian and Sting versus Steiner and Jarrett on TV. And of course, Cornette would book the match with stars on television. Why would he not book that? So why is Sting being so coy about it? Christian cuts Sting off, then it's like, next week, it's showtime. So they appear to be on the same page once again.
The same page.
Just gonna let it sit in silence. Awkward silence.
I love when jokes deliver.
JB has Jarrett and Steiner. Steiner says they're not big and strong enough to win. He's disgusted that he picked a partner from Ethiopia because apparently they have better muscle tone in Ethiopia than Christian, is what he was going for.
Yeah, because he's saying that Christian is malnourished.
Jarrett says Cornette's only possible choice is to affirm the Slammiversary results, stop the vote, and give Jarrett the title belt. Steiner asks if Joe has learned his lesson. So still Steiner-Joe stuff.
I did like the immediate cut to Jarrett and Steiner. Get their reaction on what has transpired. And also, neither of them being cowards about it either. They're just like, yeah, let's fucking go. We'll throw hands.
So the main event segment of this show is one we'll come back to a lot for the various stories this month.
It's like a goddamn woke liberal rainbow in the...
It is.
In the written format.
Yeah, in our notes we color code the stories now to make it easier to track the segments for each, and this is the most trans-coded segment of the notes there has ever been.
Ironic it's in the Cornette segment.
Sure is. So Cornette holds a public meeting where he addresses the various characters and stories of TNA, so that's the reason we'll be coming back to this 5 times. But for the purposes of the main event story, he calls Earl, Jarrett, and Larry into the ring. Steiner joins them. Cornette then fires Earl Hebner.
I like that when Steiner gets in the ring, Cornette's like, well, I didn't call you in, but you get your big ass in here too.
And Eric Young celebrates the firing of Earl Hebner like he has won the Super Bowl, because it is not him.
Yeah. We should have been to the bit like Cornette goes, I haven't decided on you yet.
Cornette says the words, I'm sick of hearing about Montreal and I'm not letting it go any further. Well, Jim, I have bad news for you. TNA do at least 2 more big Montreal-based segments before we're done. At least 2 that I can remember.
Well, Cornette might not have been there for those, so he has plausible deniability.
So then he circles back later to the NWA World title situation because he is holding the title in abeyance. Technically not vacated. I think they just affirmed the results. So there's no vacated. It's not a second Jarrett reign, you'll be pleased to know, over this period. Cornette doesn't like handing people titles like some people do with their son-in-law.
Good shot.
Sting and Christian were neck and neck, so he can't award the title to either one of them because the other one will be mad. So he books a #1 contenders match for Victory Road. It will be Steiner versus Sting versus Christian versus Samoa Joe. Joe gets a big reaction. And then the winner will face the still world champion, Jeff Jarrett, at Hard Justice in August. Cornette is sweating here.
I like them giving the title back to Jeff here because it does feel like something that sports manager man Jim Cornette would do, because he would be like, I don't want to have another vacation on the title history. I would rather just set up a strong contender to face Jarrett.
Yeah, it does make sense that Jarrett, you have the belt, but it will not be for long because we have the 4 biggest killers in TNA in this #1 contenders match, and the winner's going to be coming for you. That kind of thing.
It's good. I think it feels very real.
I do like that Jarrett does not give a shit about the number one contenders match. He is just ecstatic that he got his belt back.
Because he's like, in his mind, he's like 80% sure he's not going to get to keep that belt.
Some fans start throwing trash, so Steiner shouts at them. Jarrett and Steiner brawl with Christian and Sting to close the show to set up the tag match next week, and then Joe chokes out Steiner as we go off the air. Jim Cornette was in hospital the day before leaving for Orlando because he has so little range of motion in his knee. The spot at Slammiversary where he threw the cane away wasn't planned. It was actually almost a panic situation. He was swinging the cane, and with the heat, he was sweating heavily, and the cane flew out of his hands and into the crowd. At that point, he basically had no choice than to somehow move very slowly on the ramp without the cane. It was described that on the first night with that building filled with hardcore fans, he got a face reaction. The first interview on the second night with the crowd filled with a lot of park goers who only knew him from the old days, he was booed at first.
I would attest. I would attest. They didn't know him so much from the old days as they did not know him, and he was acting like a cunt.
I do like that Dave likes the idea that, like, oh, you know, the random Universal Studios park goer, of course, knew
these 8-year-olds who were at Universal Park tapings.
They were watching their 1980s NWA, and of course they remembered Jim Cornette as a heel manager, so they booed him.
Yeah, they love the new Midnights versus the old Midnights.
The second interview on the second night, the crowd was with him until he gave the title back to Jarrett, at which point people started throwing bottles. Cornette wasn't on the tapings for the second half of the month, and he's missing the Victory Road pay-per-view because of an ROH pay-per-view commitment, and the Hard Justice pay-per-view because he has a wrestling convention in Washington that weekend. The deal is, if he's needed, he'll come to Nashville and tape interviews to be inserted into the TV show.
Seems like a good deal for Jim Cornette.
Yeah, it's doing pretty okay there, isn't he?
It's like, I feel like a lot of other people wouldn't be getting away with, oh, I want to work ROH instead. And I want to do a convention.
Or signing a deal and not showing up to like the first half of the dates afterward.
Yeah. They fired Roderick for something similar.
And they didn't even like no-show TNA. They were like, we just want to do the Ring of Honor date before TNA.
Yeah.
August 6th Impact, JB is with Sting outside his locker room looking for comments about the biggest match in Impact history, the main event, Sting and Christian versus Jarrett and Steiner. Christian walks up and wonders, does JB have a crush on him? Because he appears to appear wherever Christian is.
And maybe.
Sting and he are partners tonight, but opponents at Victory Road.
Can they coexist, some would ask.
It's a time-old question. An ageless question, some might say. Or an aged question. JB has Steiner and Jarrett. They're going to start taking people out tonight, starting with Christian and Sting. Then Steiner will take out Joe. And then JB is like, if you take out Christian and Sting, then you beat Joe, you're number one contender. And Jarrett's like, don't you start driving a wedge between us. But Steiner is deep in thought.
He's like,
NWA world title, you say?
Well, the thing about Steiner is, like, it's been very adamant, like, his whole reason that he's here is because Jarrett is his mate.
He's been paid to take out Sting, and he is wanting to take out Sting.
And he doesn't like Joe.
JB has Joe. Joe says Scott Steiner can't beat him. You can make all the plans, but the minute you step into the ring with him, it all changes. Runs down his 3 opponents at the pay-per-view. It's not about beating Steiner anymore. It's about hurting him. And then our big main event, Christian Cage and Sting defeat Scott Steiner and Jeff Jarrett in the biggest match in Impact history. Do you think this is the biggest match in Impact history?
No, there's always the biggest match in fucking Impact history. It's a big match that feels like a good TV main event.
Yeah, stars in the main event is fun.
That is what I will give it.
Tanae says the words we hate more than any other are Jeff Jarrett, NWA World Champion. You're damn right, Mike.
Blah.
Sting places Steiner's chainmail on his head and punches him, which is a funny bit.
That's so Sting. It's like the most Sting spot ever.
Christian goes up top, and Jarrett pushes Christian off the top of the floor. And he takes a flip bump off the top to the floor for a crash to break. And it's the stupidest spot I've ever seen anybody take for that.
And it's an extra quarter star on the match.
It really is. It's one of those bumps that you're like, holy shit, what are you doing? I don't think he meant to do it. I think he meant to just like go off the top into the rail, but realized he fell wrong, so just took the bump to the floor. But good God.
I wonder what was going through Christian Cage's head in that moment.
I'd imagine there's a little bit of, oh my God, I'm going to die. You know?
Fuck.
Like, anytime you probably take a bump that you didn't plan to take, your brain is literally just like, this is it. I'm going to die. This is the end of my life and career. Heat on Christian, hot tag to Sting. Christian pulls the referee out when Jarrett hits Sting with the stroke. Sting hits the death drop and Jarrett, and Christian falls with a frog splash for the win. Didn't steal the pin. It looked like they were going to set it up to steal the pin, but he didn't steal it. He just won with the frog splash. Sting and Christian embrace and celebrate. Steiner jumps them out of the match. Joe makes the save and goes after Steiner as Christian stands alone holding the NWA World title.
He wants to be the champion again. That's his belt.
It felt like this probably should have been like the Go Home Show main event, because the actual Go Home Show, they kind of had nothing. So July 13th, there was features on everybody in the Road to Victory 4-way. One on Sting, one on Steiner, in which he said Christian is a filthy Canadian, the Showtime will end and Samoa is fat. One on Christian, where he gives out about Cornette firing the referee but upholding the decision. He's like, how can you do that? How can you say the referee was culpable but then uphold the decision of the referee? Which is actually a fair point.
That is a valid point, Christian Cage.
One with Joe, and then, of course, one on Jarrett. It's like, I had nothing to do with Larry and Earl, and I'm willing to take a lie detector test to prove it. Remember that one for next month. Takes us to Victory Road. There's a video package that opens the show where Jeff Jarrett hacks the pay-per-view.
Yeah, Solomon Crow, Jeff Jarrett here.
The original hacker gimmick, Jeff Jarrett. He hacks the feed and does his ha, including the I brought TNA to Hulk Hogan line, which I do appreciate them getting in all the goddamn time.
I mean, it's a good line. You can't take it from the boy.
It's been 3 years since that happened, and he's still, every video package and every promo, it's like, Hulk Hogan tried to come to TNA, I brought TNA to Hulk Hogan.
How many people watching do you think actually remember that?
Because they're on Spike now, so it's probably nobody.
Yeah.
Oh dear. They probably only remember it from seeing it in the video package a million times.
Exactly.
JB has Christian. He says the old Christian took a little sabbatical, but now he's back. Steiner lacks heart. Joe wants to be the man, but he is the man. And Sting is a carton of milk. Good for you until it expires like Sting has.
Sick.
He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. Nothing's going to happen. JB has Steiner. Joe is fat. He will follow a trap line of donuts. That was his thing. He's like, I'm gonna lure Joe away from the match by dropping donuts all the way, and then he will eat the donuts and he'll be gone.
That's cool.
Christian is a Canadian. Eat a steak, stick man, and go to Mexico North. Is what he says to him. In the middle of the LAX angle, by the way. And he's going to take out Sting like he was brought in to do.
I do appreciate that has been his one major goal this whole time. He's had his distractions with the Samoa Joe, but he's still here to kill Sting.
JB has Joe. This is the only shot Joe is going to need. He's going to kill them and become number one contender. And then we have our main event. Sting, Christian Cage, Samoa Joe, and Scott Steiner to become number one contender. Main event of the pay-per-view. Sting wins in a match they needlessly overbooked.
I mean, did you expect it not to be like a giant overbooked mess?
Well, like, the problem was Jeff Jarrett was not on the pay-per-view, and of course Jeff Jarrett has to find a way to make himself annoyingly present on the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Because I think the work is really good, and if they just did a four-way that Sting won, it would have been really good. Except Jeff Jarrett had to show up, and he had to throw gasoline in Sting's eyes. He had to fake him being a cameraman, and it was like, oh my god, it's Jeff Jarrett. And then we had to do the most annoying angle in the world, where Sting is taken to the back, but he comes back and wins. It's like, guys, just do the match.
And like, despite the sting of it all, I thought it was still pretty good though. A lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, because what you got it down to Steiner, Joe, and Christian, and they just had a really good match.
Didn't we also get the famous, like, Christian Cage, Scott Steiner botch?
Yes, this is the famous Christian Phantom throw into the apron, where Steiner is trying to slam his head in the apron, but his fingers slip off. But Christian still does the bash his head off the apron, and it looks very bad. And you can hear Steiner shout, "Oh shit," after he does it. It's very funny. I never heard the "oh shit" before until I went back to do the notes for this, and I laughed my ass off.
That's when I knew wrestling was fake.
That exposed the business for you?
Yeah, it did. Because that was the clip. That was the clip everyone uses.
Was it actually, like, legitimately?
Yeah.
I thought you were doing a bit. Oh my god. This is the moment that exposed the business?
That's the clip. That's the one I couldn't deny it anymore.
You were like, well, yeah, he does just slam his own head off the apron.
Yeah, I was still defending it at a brisk 8 years old.
You see, I don't think I ever had that, because, like, obviously when I was 8, it would have been 2000, where we didn't have access to clips of people botching shit on the internet. Thanks, Matthew. It's all your fault. But, so, like, it would have had to become a more organic realization for me to be like, of course this is fake. But I didn't have, like, that one thing where it's like, undeniable clip proves wrestling fake.
Yeah. It's right up there with, like, Rey Mysterio wrestling without mask.
There was a lot of it. It's called WCW.
Yeah, but I didn't know that.
All the mystery was gone.
All the Mysterio.
Should have just called him King.
Just called him late to dinner.
See, that's a joke so bad that it circles back to being good.
Finally, I've reached my spot.
Steiner elbow drops Joe off the apron through a table on the floor, which looked really good. Steiner hits a terrifying top rope suplex on Christian where he nearly dropped him, which looked less good, but also great, I guess, in the same way. Sting reemerges, has a face down to Christian, but Steiner dumps Joe and Christian out to the floor. Sting then pins Steiner with a Scorpion Death Drop as Christian is mad that Sting won, but does shake his hand.
Again, Steiner not afraid to take pinfalls.
He's been losing left, right, and center. Lost to Joe, took a pin to Sting on TV, or did that go to a DQ? That might have went to a DQ. But he took the pin in the tag as well, didn't he?
Pretty sure.
As I have to scroll back up to confirm that he did take the pin in the tag. Where is that? Oh no, they pinned Jarrett, I think, on TV. Never mind. But still.
But the fact that I wouldn't have been surprised, you know?
But like the thing is, he hasn't like won a match. He's arguably lost too much. That like the only person he really beat was like Andy Douglas, and was that a real match or did he just beat him up? I don't even remember.
I think he just killed him.
Yeah, so like they brought Steiner in, had him pin nobody, and he's only put over Samoa Joe and Sting. So like thumbs up. That's exactly what you'd want.
Like you kind of expect Scott Steiner to be more of a prick.
Mm.
But he's been cool.
Certainly harder to work with. Speaking of him not being cool, though, Joe wasn't happy at TV. He showed up with a large welt under his eye when Steiner potatoed him at the pay-per-view. He ended up in an argument with D'Amore in front of the wrestlers. D'Amore was on him about something, and Joe yelled at him, and D'Amore eventually apologized in the end. So whatever happened, they made it good, but Joe wasn't happy because Steiner was working too snug.
I mean, like, I appreciate that, like, Joe has never been someone who has been afraid to, like, bring up if he feels like he's been wronged, you know?
Especially this era of Joe.
Yeah, like, it's someone who's, like, he isn't a vet, like, by American TV stand, you know?
Yeah, and I think there's, like, a level-headedness to like, later career Joe that comes from kind of this, like, passionate, kind of hot-headedness.
He had his rebellious
Joe.
Stage.
Because like there's this one, there's obviously the Hall promo, there's the one in like 2010, 2011 where he wrestled RVD to a time limit draw and he got really mad that they announced the time cues and he got suspended for that one too. Like there's a few incidents over his TNA career where he got like really hot and passionate about things, and like if you listen to an interview with him now, he's like very much go with the flow, level-headed, and I do think it's literally like maturity. It's literal maturity over time. It's like, yeah, I probably didn't need to lose my shit about stuff like that.
Well, I think part of it is probably he like is a vet now. He is someone that the locker room looks up to. But like he also knows, and he knows when to pick and choose his spots to like be that guy who needs to like be an intimidating presence, because like we saw it at All In, right, with the Punk stuff where he's like, get the fuck out there, don't take this from me, I'm having my match in front of 80,000 people.
Yeah.
So it's like, he still has that streak in him. I think he just knows when to use it now.
And I guess, as you mentioned, he's not the vet locker room leader here, whereas he is now. So if Samoa Joe is chewing you out for something, he can do that with a lot more authority than he can do with Scott Steiner.
Yeah.
So yes, Hard Justice, main event, Sting versus Jeff Jarrett. That's what you have to look forward to next month.
Okay. I'm sure that won't be a match that gets drilled into my fucking brain a million times.
They don't do it that much. I can think of 3 Sting and Jarrett matches. I'm sure there's one on TV that I'm not remembering, but there's only 3 that I can think of.
Okay, well that is less than I expect. Yet more than I had hoped.